Hello and welcome to Journeys and Journals. I'm Bernie Martin Beck and I get to talk to the people who've made history. Turn that calendar back 150 years and let's meet the guest whose family came, I'm sure it was horse and buggy, was it? You're Dorothy Hile, that's what I know you as.
Right.
And Dorothy, how did the family get to Oregon?
My mother's family, her father's family, the Lees, came in 1847 in the Oskaloosa wagon train that came up and eventually came down the Columbia to...
Safely?
Yes.
Down the Columbia?
Yeah, all sick, but they got there safe.
And then they had this dream to come west?
Well, they left from New York a year ahead.
Yeah.
And stopped in Iowa to visit her family. I thought they might stay there, but they didn't. And so they came on west. There was the great-great-great-grandfather, Josephus Lee, his four grown children, Philander, Philemon, Philester, Philinda, all their spouses, and lots of children.
Oh, don't you wish we could look at a picture of all that crowd coming with the wagon, huh?
Right.
They brought everything they had?
Uh-huh. Never went back.
In 47?
1847.
Well, what was their destination after they did the river?
The Willamette Valley, and they all settled there.
You're talking real Oregonians?
Yes.
Farm family, or what was their...
Yeah. The little town of Canby sits on part of their donation land claim that Philander Lee had. And they all settled in that Salem to Portland area.
Well, Canby has a ferry. Is it still running?
Yes, it's still running, and it's named for my grandfather's brother.
And that's what?
M.J. Lee.
Oh my goodness, I got to, and folks, you know, go off the beaten path and try some of these back roads in Oregon. They are so much fun.
Yes, it is.
And you think that little ferry.
It's not, the one that's there now is, I think it's a second one with the name.
Well, you almost think that you can see somebody pulling across in an open, I mean, it isn't, but you can imagine.
Right.
Now, who in the world is this guy?
That's MJ.
This is the ferry boat fella?
Yeah.
And what's he doing here?
He was a bike racer and all kinds of things. He was into politics. And I've forgotten. It tells a little bit in that. There are other articles that tell more, but.
And look at that gorgeous bicycle.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
But you can go way back beyond him. Who is this lady with the
Well, that's on my dad's family, and that is my great-grandmother, Carrie Ann Calloway Slagle, and the picture behind her is her daughter, my grandmother.
I don't know which hairdo I'd prefer.
Well, I like today's better.
Now, did you know much about this grandma?
No, I didn't even know her name until just a few years ago, and one of my cousins on that side of the family happened to come in the store where I worked, and I said, "Do you know Grandma Slagle's first name?" I didn't know her first name. And he said, "I don't, but my sister will know." And so he called his sister, who lives in California, and she took my aunt's Bible and went through it and pulled out all the pictures and documents and made copies for me.
Oh, and we hope lots of aunts will do the same for their nieces and nephews. Because, now, this is Grandma.
That's Grandma Hall.
But tell me about this dress.
That's my other grandmother's, but Grandma Lee's wedding dress material.
Okay. Now, Grandma Lee is this would be the nephew?
No. That guy was my Grandma Lee's brother-in-law.
Okay.
My grandfather's brother.
And Grandma Lee had this beautiful dress.
Well, she didn't think so, and I'm not sure I would, but I'm glad to have the fabric, because she told me when I was a little girl. I asked about her wedding dress. We were looking at my mother's wedding dress, And she said, well, it wasn't very nice. It was brown because they wouldn't let me have white because I couldn't wear it to church afterwards.
Oh my goodness, and look at the lace. Can't you imagine someone sitting there tatting this?
Yeah.
And this is more, oh, I'm so glad somebody saved it. What do you suppose? This was the bodice and this was the skirt?
I would guess so. I don't know because I have never seen it before until just a short while ago. Ann gave this whole big bunch of stuff to my brother.
And your brother's name is?
Ted.
Ted Hall, tallest, skinniest guy you ever knew.
Well, he's still tall, but not quite as tall. And
As he is skinny.
Not quite as skinny either.
Oh my, I went to grade school. He was one of the big kids, and I mean big, older than me and much taller. Now, you're almost twins?
Just a year and 3 days apart.
And he outgrew you by a bunch, didn't he?
By the time he was about 11, he was taller than me.
I tried to call Ted last night because I just wanted to get his take. He married Bonita
She was Bonita Brummett.
Brummett.
And her brother married my sister Wilma.
Oh, no, I didn't know that. We knew the Brummetts in Grants Pass.
Right, they weren't there very long.
But now you didn't settle in Grants Pass. You're a Medford kid, aren't you?
No, we were all born in Grants Pass. Dad was born in Grants Pass. Mom was a newcomer.
And where did Mom come from?
Well, she was born over near Prineville at a place on a homestead at a place called Hay Creek. But her folks were actually from the Canby and Lebanon area.
What do you suppose took them over? Was it homestead country? Did they want free land?
They had a timber claim, had a mill, and my grandmother Lee's mother and stepfather had an adjoining place, and that's actually where my mom was born, and one of her sisters.
So now, are these pictures of these folk?
No, these are...
School named for
this
Canby Pioneer.
Philander Lee was the oldest son of Josephus Lee, and this is another early pioneer from the same area. And actually, one of his granddaughters married his granddaughter.
Well, maybe grandson, huh?
No, yeah, the grandson, excuse me, yes.
Because
The one with the bicycle married the granddaughter of the fellow in the bottom picture.
Because these families are old time history of here in Oregon.
Yeah.
Then Canby and then Eastern Oregon.
Yeah.
But what brought your family to Southern Oregon? Do you know?
Well, yeah, my grandfather wanted to come down here where it was warmer.
Oh, many a person has thought that.
They were at the end of the First World War. They were up in the Elma, Washington area. And some of the family hadn't been very well because it was really damp, and so Grandpa wanted to come south. He had a cousin that lived here, and I can't remember her name. And so anyway, he convinced Grandma that they should come down here.
Oh, I'm so glad.
It was in 1923 they came. And Mom and her younger sister and brother were still in school. The others older ones had finished.
How many in this family?
6.
6 kids. Now, this is a book from that era.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me, whose book is it and how do you happen to come by it?
Well, it was my grandfather's. And before that, it was his aunt.
You're talking George Lee?
Yeah, Grandpa Lee.
And Grandpa Lee lived in 1874.
He was born then.
And he lived until 1954. He was an old man.
Yeah.
I mean, that used to sound really old. Now
Well, yeah,
I guess
I'm creeping up to what he was.
creeping.
He died the year I was married.
And so you knew the guy.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about him.
We lived walking distance from their house.
Where'd you live?
On 10th Street.
I think I was at your house, kind of.
I doubt it. You were enough younger that I wouldn't think that you ever were, but you might have been.
Well, we'd sometimes drive Ann home.
Oh, well, then you might have been. Yeah, we had a little old house that was in the 900 block there.
Now, so you saw, well, that's out in the country, orchard country, or up where the vineyards were, and, you know, early time. That's why the Tokay is named. You graduated from Grants Pass High?
49.
Class of, and old Doug, my husband, is class of 50, so.
So was Ted.
Ted is too.
Yeah.
Great. What's the book about?
All kinds of stuff.
Well, give me a few chapters.
I can't even remember now. It's been years since I read anything in it.
Well, it sure looks interesting, but without my glasses, folks,
And I left mine at home too.
It's all these lessons.
Yeah, it's various lessons. We used to have more of those. We had 3 or 4 different volumes, and I don't know if I have them or because I've got books that have been packed for a long time. And
well, the reason that you have things packed up, you moved to Medford in 19 and what?
Let's see, I graduated from high school in 49, went to college at Walla Walla for a couple of years, then went to Alaska for a year, taught school, and then back to Portland and worked in the hospital for a few months when Wilma was there also. And then I went back to school for another 6 months and went back to the hospital in Portland for 6, 7 months, and then I went to Medford and was working in the hospital there.
And you met this nice guy?
Yeah, and he had 5 nice kids.
Oh, are you telling me you are a stepmother?
Mm-hmm.
Of 5?
Yeah.
Tell me, what's his name?
What?
What's his name?
My husband?
Mm-hmm.
Hugh.
Hugh.
Hile.
And Hugh Hile came with a family.
He came, their mother was dead, and
What age are the Hile kids?
well, those kids were from 9 to 15, and then over the next few years we had 4 together.
But now you're still quite young.
I was 24.
And mother of 5, including a 15-year-old?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my hat's off to you and my... I wanted to know about this little girl. Let's go way back. Who is she?
That's me.
Somebody here in the studio said, oh, you'd know it was her. Just look at those eyes. This happens to be an art craft.
Right.
That was a studio in Grants Pass.
Right.
And so a long time ago, they were mighty proud of their little firstborn, huh? And then she grew and increased in wisdom and stature, and there you are.
That was art craft also, I think.
Yes, it is. Was this school picture maybe? Or?
It was, yeah. It's a senior picture.
And I'm always pleased when people have kept those kinds of things. You have this treasure. Look at these handbags. If they're not quite fashionable, aren't they just the cutest? Who are we looking at?
Me on the left and Wilma on the right.
Tell me about Wilma. How much younger is she?
She's 2 years and 9 months. And I informed my brother the day she was born that she was mine. I ordered her.
Mother had nothing to do with
No,
it.
no, she was mine. So when Ann was born, Ted turned around to me and he says, Dorothy Jean, she's mine. I ordered her.
Oh my goodness, that's so cute. I got to talk about those purses. Oh, you're all dressed up. Do you know where you were going? Do you remember the day?
I don't remember the day, but we were going someplace together. It was a day off from the hospital. And one of the girls that worked there said, oh, wait a minute, I want to take your picture. You're all dressed up. And we liked that one, so we fixed it for Mom for Mother's Day.
Oh, surely. Now, you said the hospital. You've mentioned that several times. What was your work?
Well, they called us attendants. We took care of the little kids that were in the Shrine Hospital.
So you would be taking care of keeping them occupied and
Well, you know, they were there because they had various kinds of problems.
Yeah.
At that time, it was before we had
Salk vaccine. You probably had a lot of polio kids.
We did. We had polio children. We had children with birth defects, all kinds of birth defects. Everybody from newborn babies up to teenagers.
Wow. And so the two of you worked together?
Wilma went there first, and then I came home from Alaska and was looking for a job in Grants Pass before I went back to college, which was my ultimate goal. And she called one day and said they were needing more help up there at the Shrine Hospital. Why didn't I come up and work there? So I did.
And we're talking 1951 or two?
52. And yeah, 52, the end of 52. And then in January, I went back to Walla Walla, but Ted was in the Army by then, and Bonita came and worked there for a while. And then,
I just hoped that we can have Ted on this program. Ted, you know, just one of those big guys, and literally big guys. And he and Bonita have a lot of history that I call them, they live up north.
They live in Salem.
And your sister lives way down south, one each direction, I guess.
Yeah.
Who's that picture of?
That's my mom and two of Wilma's grandchildren.
Now, your mother's name is?
Zella.
Zella. Her maiden name is?
Lee.
Zella Lee. So she goes over here with the Lee family.
Right, and these are all part of that family.
These are Lees?
Uh-huh. This is Mom's family with the exception of the youngest because he wasn't born yet.
Okay.
This is Mom.
Where's she?
She's this one.
And she went to school where?
Well, she graduated from Grants Pass.
Okay.
She was a teenager when
19
they moved here.
and?
28, I think.
Oh, don't you wish you, do you have her yearbook or anything?
It exists somewhere. I don't know where.
Okay. And
I don't have it. These are her two brothers, Mortimer, and Eugene. And
now I guess that's the first Mortimer I ever met.
and he was called Morty. They both were killed in logging accidents in 1942.
The same year?
Same year. This one first in April, and then him in September.
Oh, heartbreak. So much heartbreak.
It was a terrible year. He was in the midst of separating from his wife, had no kids. She had a boy, but they had none together. And then he and his wife had been married 6 years and had just found out they were having a baby, which was a posthumous one.
And so the joy of the baby.
Well, it was a joy, but it also, the whole year was bad because the week after he was killed, my dad's youngest brother was killed in a car accident.
You've experienced a lot of sadness in your family.
Oh, yeah.
Early. Now, these are who?
This one is my grandfather. These two other men are his brothers, Roy and MJ. And this is their sister, Epsie.
So we really, the drummer. Don't miss the drummer.
Well, that's same as this guy.
Oh, and just a kid out.
Yeah.
I'm sure the photographer would come through and have a little drum set for him to sit down and say, now this will be cute. You sit still for this picture.
These three. Now, this lady has two relationships with our family.
How does that work?
Well, it works because she's my grandfather's aunt, but she also is my grandmother's foster mother.
Oh, okay, so it's not a bloodline, but it's a foster mother.
But see, This was my Grandma Lee. This is her foster sister, Belle Saltmarsh. This is their foster mother to both of them. And that's a family tragedy too, because she had a whole bunch of kids, but all but one of them died in an epidemic. So she.
Do you know if that was the flu epidemic?
No, it was diphtheria and scarlet fever.
And this woman?
That's my mom.
Oh, and I never knew her like that. I only knew her with hair like yours. Oh, my. The pictures, you have so many. I don't know that we can do them justice, but let's jump real quick to this honeymooners. Are
Well,
these
no, that's not honeymooners. That's, I think, about the time we had been married 30 years, probably.
30? Well, you look like you really like one another. Isn't that cute?
Yeah, we did.
That's precious. You were residents down in Medford, is that right?
We were in Medford at the time we married. We left 4 years later and then came back 20 years later. So we were there from 71 until 3 years ago when Hugh was sick. I had a bad foot, and we had not thought about getting old when we built our house. And two-story house, lots of stairs, carrying up and down, not good.
And you're talking serious. When we're young, we don't think a thing of stairs. Ours is a 3-story, one room, little house on 3 stories. And when I had a broken knee, that was a real...
Well, I had a ruptured tendon in my leg, but I didn't know it. And
so that meant Sell, Alvery, and Medford. And where did you settle?
Where did we settle?
Mm-hmm.
Cave Junction.
Tell me about Cave Junction. Have you gotten involved in history over there?
Not yet, because Hugh was already sick when we moved there. And I had the bad foot that I didn't know it was going to cause me to have major surgery. But anyway, we did. And so I've been over there 3 years, and I'm just now getting out and doing, and I love the place. It's wonderful. And when we bought our little house on a flat lot, no stairs, not much grass to take care of, like we had a half-acre lot.
Oh, in Medford.
In Medford, and even with a riding mower Hugh got, so he couldn't do it. So anyway, we bought this little place, and then my foot went where I had no choice. We had to have it fixed, and he got worse and worse and died a year ago.
So you did a lot of caregiving.
All together.
And you basically were trained in nursing and to be a caregiver. Did you ever have any idea that it'd be for your own husband?
No, but early on, he told me, he said, if I go before you do, don't let me be in a hospital. He was terrified of hospitals. And he was at home.
And you saw to that.
Uh-huh.
And did I understand he had 5 children?
Yeah.
And then you had 4 children? And what was it like? Did they keep coming in to see Dad?
Well, they couldn't very often because they all live someplace else.
Right.
The oldest of the kids lives in Oklahoma. The youngest of the boys, my youngest son, lives in Texas. The oldest, my firstborn, lives in Southern California, and his brother next to him lives up at Arcata, California. And we have the middle of the girls lives in Big Bear Lake, California.
Well, you didn't have a whole lot of support then around during Hugh's illness, did you?
Well, Cindy comes down fairly often, even though she lives up in Washington, and the boy in Arcata comes fairly often. And we did okay.
Well, you had family.
I had family.
Now, are we talking about Hugh here?
Uh-huh.
Hugh and you. Oh,
Right.
excuse me, that was cute, wasn't it?
Yeah, right.
Oh, my. So glad to meet the rest of your family. Who am I looking at?
That's me with my granddaughter Rebecca. That's Cindy's oldest daughter, and she's a teacher in Texas. And
Folks, look at the brown hair. Aha!
oh yeah, her hair is like mine was. But that's the only thing that's like me that I can see.
We had a little old school up on 7th Street, out near the end of the street.
Yeah.
And I knew these kids. Oh my, they were grown up. It was so neat. And I called Ann and got her your number and talked to her about you. She's pretty proud of her big brother and sisters.
Oh yes, she is. But we kind of like her too.
Oh, my. I just feel, how can I get back through all these pictures and all this information about history?
Well,
Can I keep you here for another show and we'll talk more about families? And I'm looking at things that look like they were turn of the century.
they are.
Okay, let's talk again.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Dorothy.
Okay.
I'm Bernie Martin Beck, and I get to talk to these fascinating people here in Southern Oregon. And when I talk to Dorothy again, we'll be talking about Cave Junction. It wasn't named Cave Junction. It has a different name, doesn't it?
Was part of the Illinois Valley.
Yes, and Cave Junction was just where the roads came together and little else.
Huh?
Folks, I'm Bernie Martin Beck, and I like to talk to these people who were there and lived it, walked it, talked it. Do you have any horse stories? Mary, you can tell us. Horse stories. How did the family get from place to place?
Well, I don't know much about that.
We'll check in later with
Okay.
you. I'm Bernie Martin Beck saying thank you so much for tuning in.